turning over.
It's really intense. It's like in a good way, but it's really intense.
It is very, very hot. It is very harsh on the equipment and yourself.
Is that a baby scorpion?
There were hundreds of moments when the show might not have happened.
It was very, very challenging.
It was not for the faint-hearted at all.
This is the uniform of my very latest creation, the SAS.
SAS Rogue Heroes is a show about how the SAS was formed during World War II in North Africa, and it's about a bunch of ragtag fellas who took matters into their own hands because they felt that the controlling forces weren't capable of doing it themselves.
The map on the wall keeps being redrawn and men are dying.
Sterling, what would it take to make you call me sir?
So it is the origin story of the SAS at its simplest. But what makes Rogue Heroes so exciting is the rebel spirit of these guys.
You are all fucking mad. At last, he gets it.
They were very mixed bags. Some of them were very complicated, flawed, vulnerable individuals. Some of them were borderline psychotic.
They made mistakes and regretted things and questioned themselves, all of those things that we all do.
And that's the thing that Tom really and myself wanted to dive into, and I think is what's going to make this show so special.
They created something which has the most extraordinary reputation.
And basically changed the war, changed the direction of the war, and eventually secured victory in the war. So it's a story that really needs to be told.
Gentlemen, the SAS is a blank page. And it is our job to fill it.
For years, there's been stories and scripts floating around about the SAS. So when this one came along, I was already kind of geared to wanting to be involved.
When we found out that Jack was interested in playing Paddy, it was just really exciting for all of us.
I just always thought that Jack would be such a fantastic Paddy.
So yeah, I was just like, yeah, sign me up.
Let the games begin.
And we had to find David Sterling.
When we put Connor together with Jack, even though it was a bizarre COVID, 2 people on a Zoom,
it was immediately apparent that this is who it should be.
No waiting for the piss-poor orders to dribble on down through the rain.
And we would be stood down, and stood down, and stood down.
There'll be no one to stand us down. We will be answerable to no one. Answerable to no one, Paddy.
The third part of our Holy Trinity, or our Unholy Trinity, Jock Lewis. Now I can't see that it ever could have been anyone other than Alfie. There is a sort of wounded dignity that he brings, but also Alfie can really bark, and I've been encouraging, the barking Lewis.
Get the tents up, let's not be too creative!
Steve, he became very, very interested in the notion of having a French-Algerian spy in the mix. I'd known of Sophia's work for quite a while. I just had a feeling that would be a kind of brilliant fit for our world.
She was our go-to. We didn't consider anybody else. We wanted it to work with her and for her.
I was really drawn to telling this story, drawn to play this character. Even if Eve is a fictional character in comparison to David Sterling, she is very much a character that existed at the time. There were a lot of incredible women that were a part of the liberation.
And then you put alongside that phenomenal team somebody like Dominic West, who comes in with this small but essential part.
It's a wonderful part. We've written wonderful scenes.
Are you Colonel Dudley Wrangle Clark?
At your service. And this is the Cairo headquarters of British Secret Intelligence Middle East. Fun, isn't it?
We often talk about challenges in relation to SAS Rogue Heroes, of which there were many.
Well, the reason I went to this project is because it has to be shot in the most grueling conditions, and I don't want an easy life.
And action! When we started filming, it was, a bit of a breeze. It kind of felt okay.
Out of nowhere, within seconds, the biggest sandstorm just hit us.
I think the shock of that and realizing how brutal the desert can be was probably one of the toughest moments we had.
Sandstorms are brutal, certainly not actor friendly.
The visibility was inches, and we kept going.
Now when the sandstorms come in, we just sort of close our eyes for a few minutes and then we carry on.
Sandstorms, we can't do anything about. And also, we got some great footage of a sandstorm, which was going to cost us a lot of money in visual effects, and we got that for free.
So yeah, that's been like an element, like almost a bit of a character in itself, is like the desert and how it manoeuvres. Hot. Africa is, well, Africa's hot.
42, but we have the whole, it's going to get to 44.
The earth starts to heat you as much from underneath as you are getting from the sun above, and you're just being baked.
It was so hard to film out there in those conditions, which just brought a real truth to it that you couldn't have cheated in any other circumstance. You can't cheat that feeling with green screen.
At certain stages, both the cast and the crew said to me they didn't think that they could continue. We did, however, and I think they're all very proud, quite rightly, that they got through it, because it was hardcore.
We're doing a story about people who were fighting a kind of unbelievably awful war. So I'm a bit like, do you know what? If they stuck it out through all of that, I don't think we've got anything to complain about.
As the show goes on and the arcs continue, there's a real sort of degrading process that happens to all of them physically and mentally. I think they all sort of become these desert pirates.
Now, I would suggest that we form up into ranks and straight lines for a formal military greeting with salutes and all that wonderful nonsense, but that will give them a rather false impression of who we are.
They just collected anything they could find in the desert, bits of old tent, Afghan coats, and they genuinely look like pirates. So that was the brief. Tom was like, I want them to look like desert pirates.
They look so cool, and the idea was that, look, we're being true, and it looks amazing.
We came up with the idea of creating 3 stages of breakdown. So there was like stage 1, which is the earlier episodes, and then there was a middle stage around episode 4, and then episode 5 and 6 was the final breakdown stage, where we really wanted to show the weathering, and they've been out there for a year. And so you wanted all that ground in grime and grease and the sand, the sun bleaching.
Always sweaty, always sandy, always dusty, and Tom's always like, more.
Obviously we were filming out in the desert, so ideally you just get them to roll around in the sand, because that is the reality of the environment.
They know it now, so they're like, yeah, okay, more sand, more sweat, and obviously the sweat's real as well because it's 40-degree heat. So.
We're just spoiled out here, like on a daily basis. Every location, you've got either sand dunes as far as the eye can see, or salt flats.
One thing actually that I'll take from it was a sunset shot of us all leaving Jalo. And it was a big crane shot of us just driving off into the desert, just doing that alone, looking around everyone in the costumes and the vehicles, and yeah, it was like, that was the closest to feeling like I was really there.
I look back and I think about how incredible it was at the time. You're so focused on work that you can't really comprehend how beautiful the scenery is around you, but it was a fantastic moment. Just sort of in my life, being somewhere that big and feeling so small in the middle of it was really quite special.
It's just such a cool story, and it's told so well that I think it transcends its era.
That's exactly what I'm after.
It shows that sometimes maverick, dysfunctional, strange fucked up thinking is sometimes the right way to go.
1, 2, 3, 1!
I hope it will bring across the chaos of war, or the comedy of war, the horror of war, the tragedy of war, because they're all in there.
The new motto is, who dares wins. Who dares wins.